5 reasons why tiny homes are a scam and why I think you should avoid them. Hi, I'm Linda Brumble. I'm with Right at Home Realty. The last few years, tiny homes have become the latest and greatest kitschy things to have, and they've become quite popular. I don't like them, and that's just my opinion, but I'm going to give you 5 reasons why tiny homes are a scam and why I think they're the worst idea builders ever came up with. Reason number 1, costs. To build a tiny home, just to get the shell, it's going to run you between $50,000 and $75,000. To get a finished tiny home, you're looking at between $100,000 and $130,000. Sometimes upward to $150,000 depending on fit and finish. So $150,000, that's a cheap house. You have to put it somewhere. So now you have to buy a lot. And I can tell you, even a building lot in Oshawa is going to run you about $300,000, give or take. Plus, you haven't even set the home up with the foundation, which you'll require, and hooking it up to septic or sewer or water or well, depending on where you live. So all of that's going to run you more money, plus you're going to need permits and the rest of it. So by the time you're done paying your $300,000 for a lot and your $150,000 for the house and all of your permits and your hookups and your foundation, it's going to cost you about the same as if you bought a 3-bed, 1-bath home that's already pre-built and ready to go. Number 2, mortgages. It's harder to get a mortgage on a tiny home because of the fact that the square footage is so small and there's such a kitschy thing that it's going to be a lot harder to get a mortgage on that than, say, a traditional 3-bed, 1-bath townhouse or regular home. Because a lot of times the tiny homes are not on a proper foundation or on a foundation that can be removed. It becomes a mobile asset. So it's basically a mobile home. And most lenders, traditional lenders, will not touch that. So you would have to get a line of credit or some other special mortgage as opposed to a traditional mortgage. So that probably means a higher rate at the end of the day, and you're going to pay the same for that small house as you would for a traditional home. Number 3, there's no room to grow. If you're in a tiny home that's 400 square feet and you're living there on your own, that's fine. But if you ever decide to get a roommate or you meet somebody and you want to live with them or start a family or have people or guests over, there's nowhere to go. You are stuck in this tiny 400 square foot house and there's no getting around it. So then you're going to have to start building outbuildings, and if you're on a tiny lot with setbacks and permits, it's just going to be a whole nightmare that you don't even want to get into, where you wouldn't have to worry that with a traditional home. If you're single, the minute you meet somebody and decide to live with them is the minute you've outgrown your tiny home. Number 4, most tiny homes have lofts for bedroom areas because their square footage is so small, they move up instead of out, which means you're going to have to either climb really steep stairs or a ladder to get to your bedroom to sleep. As we get older, like myself, the last thing I want to be doing is climbing up and down a loft in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Lofts are not practical. Number 5, lack of storage. Tiny house has no storage. So it's great if you're thinking about downsizing, but you don't realize how much stuff you have and how much stuff you want until you go to live in a tiny home that has no storage. So that means no Christmas tree. That means no place to put your winter and summer clothes. You're going to have to make some decisions, or build some sort of shed that you can put all that in the back and hope that the animals don't get to it. So you're really going to have to downsize what you have and what you own to make that house accommodating to your lifestyle. And that's something people don't really consider. The only time a tiny home makes sense is if we can stick them closer together so you don't have that large lot bill. And we have that already. They're called townhouses and condos. So if you're thinking about buying a tiny home on a tiny lot, buy a townhouse, buy a condo. They're already there. You don't have to deal with permits. You don't have to deal with lot sizes and setting up foundations. They make sense. Tiny home does not. And in most cases, a condo will have some sort of storage lockers. A townhouse will have a basement that you can store your stuff in. You'll have so much more space, and at the end of the day, it'll cost you just as much. My suggestion, builders, you need to start making smarter decisions. Stop building the 4,500 5-bed, 3-bath, $1 million homes. We don't need those. We need some affordable, reasonable homes. Back in the 50s and 60s, that's what they built. If you look at those houses, they were all 3-bed, 1-bath with unfinished basements at a reasonable price. You could move in there if you were starting out. You could live in it and finish the basement, add a bathroom, add things as you go. It'd still be enough room for you and your family. And when your family was done and moved out and you were an empty nester, you could still live in that house quite comfortably, because most of them were bungalows or back splits or side splits with very few stairs. So something to consider. It's not what you need now, it's what you might need in the future. Because trust me, moving is expensive. Realtor fees are expensive. Legal fees are expensive. All us realtors want you to move. Just keep moving, because every time you move, we make money. But you have to be smart about it too. And I would rather see you move into one house and spend 30 years loving that house than be constantly moving up or moving down because you've made a mistake and it didn't make sense long term. So something to consider. And that's why I think tiny homes, bad idea. If you'd like to know more about what you can afford and what you'd like to move into, let me know. It's Linda Brumble, Right at Home Realty.